Hey, this is Nir Bashan here, the author of the Creator Mindset, a McGraw-Hill book. I am so excited to have Shawn Kanungo over here, who published a book called The Bold Ones, Innovate and Disrupt to Become Truly Indispensable. Shawn, welcome to the show, sir.
I'm so excited to be here today. And you know what? Before I get into this and, talk about my book, I actually think that your book is the origin story of this book. So this is the sequel. So if you're interested in my book, you got to buy the Creator Mindset first and then get to my book.
Super cool of you to say that, man. Yeah, it's just some exciting stuff. This is all about innovation and disruption, which is really cool. Shawn, I got to ask you right up front, because it's very important. Why is this book so important, and why particularly right now?
I think today is the most important time in history to be bold. Being mediocre today is the most dangerous place to be. And so the ability to innovate, to disrupt, to change the game, to reinvent yourself, is more important today than any other time in history. I want to write a book that really define this era that we're in today. I believe that we're in the era of the individual, that the power is shifting to the individual and there is no more barriers. So how as an individual, as a manager, as an entrepreneur, as a creator, do we go off and really make a dent in the world? And that's why I want to write it.
The age of the individual is upon us. My guest, Shawn Kanungo, who published a book called The Bold Ones, Innovate and Disrupt to Become Truly Indispensable. So cool. Listen, a lot of people say, you know what, this whole disruption thing is gotten out of hand, right? It's like everyone's like, oh, look at me, I'm a disruptor. But is that necessarily what we really need today, disruption?
Well, I think a lot of people have some various ideas of what disruption is all about. To me, disruption is, someone coming out of nowhere and really just changing the status quo. To me, the reason why status exists in the word status quo is because that's the thing that holds us back. So I believe that disruption is actually what we should be doing. We should be disrupting the status quo. We should be looking at new ways of doing things. That doesn't mean just, changing the game and leaving my job and starting a new company. That means how do I look at what I'm doing and just make it 5 to 10% better or just 3% better. And it's making those shifts every single day. And so, the reason why I wrote this book is for, the individual working within an organization that wants to do more, that wants to, feel like they can make a dent in their career and within their organization. So I want to change the whole definition of what disruption is as it applies to the individual.
I love it. Shawn, sometimes people talk about disruption as being this big thing, but you're saying, no, this is an incremental thing. It's about the evolution, not necessarily the revolution. Tell us more.
So, in the book, what's really interesting is that I outline all these different ways that you can actually go off and disrupt, which, I bring these concepts like denting the outside, which is how do you start with very small experiments and very small teams and very small sprints. I talk about the idea of unlocking secrets, within your industry or within your organization. And that's how you go off and disrupt. And I really believe that, the way that you can go off and do this is number one, to read this book, to get the book, and you'll find all these ways of disrupting. And you will find, that there's so many ways that applies to your own personality, your own character, your own organization on how to go off and disrupt. And I dissect all these innovators and disruptors throughout history around how to do that. And so I hope that people see that there's so many ways to go off and do this. And it's not just like, taking a sledgehammer to your organization. There's so many more ways of looking at this.
So important to think about the small steps involved in these changes as being very, very important. My guest again is Shawn Kanungo. His book, The Bold Ones, Innovate and Disrupt to Become Truly Indispensable. Shawn, my last question always evolves around creativity. How does this book make us more creative?
So, like I said before, I think your book is the genesis, and then this is to me This is actually about super fueling your creativity. This is taking your book, The Creator's Mindset, and saying, okay, so how do I now take our creativity and take it to the next level? How do we, really apply new technologies, new mindsets, new tools, and super fuel and put steroids around our creativity so that we can go off and innovate our careers and our industries. So, that's what I would say, that this is where it applies to, creativity.
Shawn, super, super cool. The Bold Ones, go get a copy today. It's available everywhere where great books are sold. I got to tell you, the urgency in this book, I've gone through just about the whole thing. I'm 2 chapters away from finishing. And the amount of urgency in this book that compels you to go out and do stuff is unprecedented. And I completely love it. Shawn, thank you so much for being on the show.
I really appreciate it. The last thing I would say, in the book, I have this piece, which is around try to get yourself fired. And if you're watching this, you're hearing this, wherever you are, I want you to walk into work, walk into your career, and ask yourself, how do I get myself fired? That's the whole purpose of disruption. Disruption is trying to get yourself fired before somebody fires you. So it's about, how do I take a very small risk that will change my trajectory or my organization's trajectory? So try to get yourself fired.
The greatest shifts start with the smallest move. Just 1 foot in front of the other leads you to a road that you have never been on. Shawn, thank you, man. This is really, really great stuff. Go ahead and get a copy of The Bold Ones.
Thank you.